And now for the Honourable Member, Mr. Mohabir Anil Nandlall, Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I rise with the morning sun to offer my contribution to this morning's debate. I listened, Mr. Speaker, being very low down the batting order. I had the benefit of listening to a large number of presentations. And if I may begin with the Honorable Member, Mr. Kemrad Ramjatan. So, Mr. Ramjatan, Honorable Member, one listening to him, with all the knowledge that he espoused, with all the experience that he referred to, with all the expertise that he made reference to, at the end of the day, Mr. Ramjatan, Honorable Member, admitted calmly that he was in cabinet and was part of executing what has now been accepted as perhaps the most lopsided contract on planet Earth. The simple question that Mr. Ramjatan cannot answer and did not answer with the Vince Adams and all the personnel that he spoke about, why you didn't use that knowledge and get the people of Guyana, when you had an opportunity, a better deal. Mr. Ramjatan's excuse, his explanation is that they were bound by a model document executed or drawn under a PPP government. That's the excuse? You are a sovereign government. You found billions of dollars, billions of barrels of oil, and you are bound by a contract signed years before when there was no certified finding of oil. That's what you're telling the country? A government made up of so many lawyers. You question somebody's legal competence just now. As a lawyer, you couldn't go to the bargaining table and said, look, that contract there, we don't agree with it. We have 11 billion barrels of oil. We want a better deal. No, you didn't. You accepted the model agreement according to you, and now you throw your hand up in the air and you blame us. You blame us. And what is worse, I didn't know, and the country didn't know, that the entire cabinet knew about this contract. We thought it was Raphael Trotman alone. But Mr. Ramjatan has helped us to clarify that this thing was at cabinet and they all sat around and they all knew the terms and they went on to execute and then did not disclose it. For 1.5 years, the country did not know. Shame. Mr. Ramjatan, you just said how important this contract was for Guyana, that we were doing bad in sugar, we were doing bad in rice, and you executed, according to you, the most lucrative contract in the country's history, and you kept it quiet and a secret for 1.5 years. And you coming now to tell us at 4:30 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning about transparency, and you hid this contract? How many times you approached the press? How many times you spoke to the press? How many press conferences did you do? So let us assume that you put it online. You don't think that Guyana finding all these barrels of oil out there, millions. You signed a contract, a production contract with ExxonMobil. You don't think that's newsworthy? You kept that away from the public domain for 1.5 years. And you are telling us about transparency and accountability. Mr. Speaker, when the press began to probe the issue, they denied. We had to go to the Diesel Commercial Registry and got a copy of this contract. And Mr. Speaker, it's only when we got the copy of the contract, then we knew of this clause. I'm going to tell you the clause. Hold on, just now. Don't bother when it was registered. Don't bother when it was registered. No, not the stability clause. I ain't reached there yet. The signing bonus. It is hidden at the last page. $18 million you received. And you kept that away from the people of Guyana. You kept it away from the accounting measures. You did not bring it to this parliament. You did not bring it to the parliament. You did not put it in the consolidated fund. You did not tell the people about it for 1.5 years. And you're coming here to lecture to us? We only knew of a signing bonus when we got a copy of this contract from the Diesel Commercial Registry. Mr. Speaker, that is the history. That is the sordid history and track record of those who are now going to protagonize transparency and accountability and lecture to us here. Born again champions. Born again champions. Let me tell you what you signed on to. Mr. Speaker, this is what they read. 5 lawyers in the cabinet or more. This is what they signed on to. Except as may be expressly provided herein, the government of Guyana shall not amend, modify, rescind, terminate, declare invalid or unenforceable, require renegotiation of, compel replacement or substitution or otherwise seek to avoid, alter or limit this agreement without the prior consent of the contractor. That is what they've given the country. That you have condemned the country to this. I'm going on. After signing this agreement and in conformity with Article 15, the government shall not increase the economic burdens of the contractor under this agreement by applying to this agreement or the operation conducted hereunder any increase or any new petroleum-related fiscal obligation, including but not limited to any new taxes whatsoever, any new royalty, duties, fees, charges, value-added tax, or other imposts. That is what you have imposed on the backs of the Guyanese people. I will continue. If at any time after the signing of this agreement there is any change in the laws of the government of the Guyana, whether through the amendment of existing laws, including hydrocarbon law, the customs code or the tax code, or the enactment of new laws, or a change having the force of law in the interpretation, implementation, or application thereof, whether the change is materially adverse to the economic benefit, and such change is adverse to the adverse effect on the economic benefits, including those resulting from fiscal regime provided by this agreement, accruing to the contractor hereunder during the term of this agreement, the government shall promptly take any and all affirmative actions to restore the lost or impaired economic benefits to the contractor so that the contractor receives the same economic benefit under the agreement that it would have received prior to the obligation. That shall include an obligation to resolve promptly by whatever means may be necessary any conflict or anomaly between this agreement and any such new amended legislation.
What?
That is what you have condemned the people of Guyana to. Yes, you, to this contract.
Unbelievable.
And there is another one.
Unbelievable.
If there is any change of government,
3.8 billion.
if the third one is, even if there is a change in government, and there is a change in the law, and a change in the legal system of the country, this contract shall prevail. This is the most sovereign and supreme document you have made in this country. That is what you and your government condemned the people of Guyana to. And you expect us to go renegotiate? That is what you like. When we said renegotiate, we meant renegotiate in this context. And I will show you how we have reformed the entire licensing regime. We have imposed, we cut the environmental permit that you give for 20 years in excess of what the law permits, and we brought it down to 5 years. That is a renegotiation. The terms of the license now, look at Payara and look at the other one and look at the one that you give, and you will see that there are material differences. That is the renegotiation. We have outlawed flaring. We have made that a fine, and they have to pay for that. Mr. Ramjitan, Honorable Member, those are only some of the changes. But let me deal with the Amerindian Act, as you have made a big issue out of it. Mr. Patterson, the Honorable Member, spoke. Now, Mr. Speaker, as lawmakers, you have to be economical with the use of language, especially in a complex and comprehensive legislation. So one had to do that in this case. The Honorable Sanjeev Dattadin made the necessary references of not including in this act what is provided for in other pieces of legislation. But since the Amerindian Act seemed to be a persistent worry for you, let me explain to you, Mr. Ramjitan, and you must know this, that, and the bill says it, all natural resources of a country belongs to the state. That is always the position, is a universal rule across sovereign nations. So even if you have a transported property and there's a gold reserve at the bottom, you don't own the gold reserve, my friend. You don't, yes, that is the power of the state. The power you own, you don't own the subsurface rights. That belongs to the state. And the law governing, and Mr. Ramjitan, let me complete my statement. So if to access that subsurface rights, what law will govern your particular property? The Deeds Registry Act, that shows the power of your transport, make you absolute owner, and then the government will have to go under the Compulsory Acquisition Act now to negotiate with you. You want us to put all of that here if they find an oil reserve under your bottom house? That is what you're telling the country? So if there is an oil block in an Amerindian community, it belongs to the state. The oil reserves will belong to the state, and how the state will have access to it and be able to deal with it are set out elaborately in the Amerindian Act. Jesus, man. You said gosh just now.
Gosh.
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 You didn't know that? So, Mr. Speaker, let me go one by one to deal with all these issues that they have raised. I will deal with the Petroleum Commission frontally at a later stage because that seemed to be the big issue. So I dealt with that. So, Mr. Speaker, there are different models. First of all, let us recognize, and I believe that we all have sufficient knowledge and experience to recognize the oil and gas industry as a peculiar industry. And let me recognize the efforts, one time before I forget, of the bright, young, diligent, and hardworking professionals within this government that have produced this bill, and they are right here with us at this hour in the morning. Bobby Gosai, Michael Moore, not Moore, sorry, Monroe, Kiran Matai, Shoshana Lal, Visal Satram. They worked tirelessly, bright, young people, and they produced this document. And I want the National Assembly, sir, with your permission, to recognize them. Mr. Speaker, we many a times while we were working on this bill, we had to go for drafting instructions. We were given free rein along with an American consultant who did the first draft. And I have the notes of the American consultant here as well. And let me tell you the countries that we consulted before we arrived at this model. We looked at the United States, the Outer Continental Shelf Lands Act of 1961. We look at United Kingdom. We look at Norway, Ghana, Ireland, Angola, Brazil, East Timor, and right here, Trinidad and Tobago. Those were the models that we look at. And just let's go to Trinidad. Now we can argue from now till tomorrow whether Trinidad has managed the proceeds, the revenue generated from the oil and gas sector prudently, and as a matter of opinion, depending on which side of the fence you sit. But no one can dispute that Trinidad has had a successful model as a production center for the past 100 years. Trinidad has all the powers vested in the minister. There is no commission, there is no authority, all the power vests in the Minister of Energy in Trinidad and Tobago. And for 100 years, the sky did not fall. For 100 years, the sky did not fall. So let me deal with ministerial power frontally. I have listened carefully. 90% of the criticism against this bill seemed to center around the minister having the power. The minister having the power. 90% of the problem that you have is the minister having the power. So, well, the executive reserves a prerogative to determine the governance structure for one of the most important industries in the economy. And this executive, elected by the people of Guyana and given the mandate, has chosen the model where the power is residing in the minister. And we stand and fall by that. It's as simple as that. And we have put in the bill a mechanism that if, whenever the minister has to make exceptional decisions, the minister must consult with cabinet. Cabinet. And my friend, under our constitution, a provision that you ought to be very familiar with, the cabinet is collectively responsible to the Parliament of Guyana. That is democracy. So hold us responsible. We were elected to govern, and govern we will, and hold us accountable. We decide at this point in time not to give this power to non-elected people in a commission, and that is our prerogative. Non-elected people in a commission, because you can't hold them answerable. We can't hold them answerable. The people can't hold them answerable. We are holding ourselves out as being answerable to you and the people of Guyana, and that is the model that we have decided to choose.
Well said. Well said.
That is the model that we have decided to choose. So, Mr. Speaker, once we get that out of the way, I think we have a general support for the bill, because there is no other argument. Mr. Patterson, for example, wants the commission. Let's entertain Mr. Patterson's Honorable Member Patterson's amendment at this hour of the morning. So Mr. Patterson asks us, Honorable Member, to establish a petroleum commission. The Honorable Member, you could wake up. I'm addressing your concerns. He wants us, Mr. Speaker, to establish a National Petroleum Commission. And all the members who spoke in support of him, they call for that commission to be established. And they all claim that they read and they were duly impressed by what he has written. But I have examined, and I had to ask when I have all the pages, I have examined the commission, the amendments, and nowhere in the amendments is there any provision as to how the commission will be constituted, who will appoint the commission, how many members will be part of the commission, how long they will be acting for in the commission, what is the tenure of the commission. Nothing like that. Mr. Patterson, the Honorable Member, is asking us to create a commission. Read it. You read it and see, tell me which provision, and I will draw it right away. Tell me which provision here says how the commission is going to be appointed, who shall constitute the commission, what is the tenure of the commission, how the commission is going to be funded. Mr. Speaker, you know how amendments are to be tabled in this House. They have to first of all make sense, and they must be able to be interwoven seamlessly into the bill that is before us. This does not make sense. It is a phantom commission. It is an empty commission. It has nobody. There is no person to appoint. There is no tenure of the commission. And that is the problem. When you scramble together these amendments, and I have to say that again, I said that to be established, but when? How are you going to establish it? No, you have to establish it in the bill. There shall be a national commission, and that is it. That's it. No other provision of the bill. No other provisions of the bill. I am the expert. Yes. I am the Attorney General. I have never seen a bill, a law in this country that provides for a commission but doesn't say how the commission is going to be appointed, how it's going to be established, who will constitute it, what is its quorum, how many people will be part of it, and their tenure of office, how they're going to be funded. I've never seen that. Point to one piece of legislation. Look, we'll wait. Look the law books there. Point to one piece of legislation where that is, where you can find that. So, Mr. Speaker, the amendments were only put here for the platform. It was only put here for the gallery, so that they can tell people and they get a 2-3 news story. But they know that the journalists will not go and read it properly. So I saw one news story already. Honorable Member Patterson proposes wide-ranging amendments, but they're phantom. 90% of the amendments deal with the commission, and it's empty. It's empty. And here he being insultive now. He drafts something that does not make sense and accuse all of us on this side of being silly. It does not make sense. What part of that statement you don't understand? So, Mr. Speaker, we promised this country 3 major pieces of legislation in relation to the oil and gas sector. We promised this country that we will protect the local workforce, because if we don't regulate the employment environment, Guyanese can easily be booted out and not be able to compete effectively in the sector, because we know that the petroleum industry is one that is peculiar, it's one that is sui generis. They come with an entire apparatus, and unless we protect our local population, Guyanese can suffer tremendously. And we promise to put protective mechanisms in place by way of a law. We heard a lot about draft policy, about draft this, about draft that. We put a law in place called a local content law. That's the first measure that we put in. The second measure, sir, we promised the people of Guyana that this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, that if Guyana ever had a potential of realizing the dream of all its people in a short period of time, the oil and gas industry provides that possibility. And to guard the revenue stream, to protect the revenue stream, to make the revenue stream accountable and transparent to the world and to all the people of this country, we promise to create an infrastructure of a legislative nature to guarantee those imperatives. And we produced and passed in this House the Natural Resources Fund Bill. And you will recall the passage of that bill itself was historic. Your mace was taken from there and broken. Your staff were assaulted. They were dancing and singing and gyrating and blowing of whistles in the well of the court. They broke the microphone system. That was their contribution to one of the most important pieces of legislation in this country. And that is how history will record you. That is their contribution to that most important bill. Mr. Speaker, this only sets up the administrative framework. The Guyanese people can't eat from this. They can't get the wealth from this. It is that bill that guarantees them and ensures them the wealth. And rather than contribute, they're knocked down and brought down in this parliament, nearly assaulted by distinguished and honorable brother Dr. Ashley Singh as he tried to pilot the bill successfully through this House. That is your contribution. After condemning the people of Guyana with a contract that may be comparable to servitude from a different era. Servitude from a different era. And then hide the $18 million bonus. That is a contribution to the Natural Resource Fund. And today, rather than go through this bill and try to walk with us through to examine the framework, and that is what we promise in this bill. The third bill, it's a bill that will set up a robust, transparent, and accountable framework for the sector. And that is what this bill encompasses. And they have, as usual, they have prepared in a haphazard manner. The bill from the beginning says that the bill will be read or must be read and will be applied along with the agreements, the profit sharing agreements. And we have put model profit sharing agreements out there for months now. They have not contributed, not a word. Not a word. I don't believe that they have read it, because many of their presentations indicate that they have not read the bill, the PSCs. No, I'm not at all. So, Mr. Speaker, one has to read the bill and one has to read the model PSC to get the picture. Because the bill, no singular bill can outline everything, and that's why the bill continuously makes reference to the PSC. And Mr. Speaker, the bill sets out that regulatory framework. And as I said, in important matters, yes, the Honorable Member Patterson reading it for the first time. Read. The PSC. Or the bill. No, he's reading the bill. He's reading the bill. So, we said the buffer for the minister. The minister, the bill says at several places, clause 5 for example, the minister in the exercise of powers and the performance of duties of the minister prescribed by this act shall conform with any general or specific directions given to the minister by cabinet. Let us examine if the minister puts a commission, the minister will appoint the commission. The commission will be directed by the minister. Policy, yes. Operational matters will not be done by a commission. That is your lack of understanding. The operational matters of any given undertaking in a structure cannot be done by the commission or the board. It has to be done by the executing authority. The CEO, that is not the commission. You see, Dr. Singh? Dr. Singh, basic. Basic. Commission is like a board.
Commissioner does it.
You think the forestry commission runs the forestry? That is why you all bankrupted the place. That is why you bankrupted the place. You think the Guyana Revenue Authority board runs the revenue authority? Oh my. The level of incompetence here is staggering. Really staggering. Even what you're calling for, you don't understand how it works. What you are calling for, you don't understand how it works. That's what I'm saying. You all are attractive to concepts that you have in your head. You have an allergy.
Honorable AG, I understand the concept of time. You need an extension.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to give the honourable member 5 minutes more to conclude.
Honorable AG, you have 5 minutes to conclude.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, when compared with the 1986 law, this one is far more expansive, far more robust, and far more modern. The previous one had only, what I think they call it prospecting license. This has exploratory license, how one qualifies for those license, the length of the license, etc. In fact, the licensing regime is far superior to that. You have now a petroleum exploration license, petroleum production license, pipeline operations license, geological storage license for carbon dioxide. Far superior licensing regime. Then, Mr. Speaker, if I may go quickly, we have introduced into the whole architecture now, for the first time, public bidding for the oil blocks. Under the previous administration, the minister could have signed off. Now you have public bidding, and only in very, very limited, identified special circumstances, the minister can do direct negotiations. And he's only permitted to do so upon the directions of cabinet. So the whole government will fall if the minister misbehaves. That's the point. That's the responsibility that we are putting on the line. Mr. Speaker, then we have the qualifications. First of all, for potential licensees, a clear regime of qualifications, companies only, of a particular financial standing, and they have to show their track record, etc., before they qualify to even begin to apply for either exploratory license or production license. And then in terms of transparency and accountability, we have a whole section, a whole part of the law that says that government officials, MPs and family members are prohibited from holding license. You hear that? Government officials, MPs and family members prohibited from holding license, and all these are defined in the bill. Then once we have a license, once a license is granted, any of the license, the minister is obliged to publish the details in the official gazette. The entire world will know who the licensees are and the terms and conditions of the license. What is more transparent than that? What is more transparent than that? Every single, like, what commission? You put two, let me tell you who you put on the commission. And you render the commission, waste of time. So we are giving you real, every single person now can look at the gazette, know who are the licensees and the terms of their license. Then the minister spoke at length about unitization. So that is there. Then I heard criticisms being made about absence of financial assurance. As you are aware, the Environmental Protection Act and regulations contain a very stringent regime of assurances and guarantees for protection of the environment. This bill also has its own fiscal regime in terms of financial assurance and guarantees as well, and that is set out in clause 54. The training fee, we have training fee, we have rental fee, we have a whole set of fees. They are listed here, but the sum is not fixed. I hear the honorable member, Mr. Patterson, asking us to fix the training fee at 1.5 million. The PSA has a fixed sum already. That's what I'm saying. I know that you didn't read it. All these things are stipulated in the PSA, and that is why we are asking you to read the PSA. The PSA, it will be part and parcel of, just like how we are bound by this document, our PSA, our model PSA will be as binding as this one is on the backs of the Guyanese people, Mr. Ramjitan. And that's why you can't read half and leave the other half. So I dealt with financial assurance and then tax. Under this bill, Mr. Speaker, under this PSA, you exempted all the laws of Guyana. All the laws you exempted. Even what the law did not permit. What the 1986 Act did not permit. Here, VAT will apply, corporation tax will apply, and I believe income tax will apply. And the minister will fix the rate by an order which will be laid in the assembly. Mr. Patterson said that nothing will come to the National Assembly. Another inaccuracy. I can't say a lie. So, Mr. Speaker, then you have the decommissioning part. There's an elaborate way by which wells are going to be decommissioned, and there's a decommissioning fund. I hear Mr. Patterson spoke about the absence of a fund. I don't know which bill he read. There's a decommissioning fund where the money will go in there, and from the beginning of the operation, that's how it works. Any fund, it will be amortized over a period. Is that when the operation finish? So, Mr. Speaker, I conclude by commending this bill to the National Assembly, and I urge that it be passed without any amendments. I thank you very much.